Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to be the interviewer. This is the official title. I want to present to you the panelist. Panelist is Gideon Friedman, Chief Scientist, Israel Ministry of Energy. Welcome, Gideon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Can you hear me? So technically it's okay, huh?
Yes, I'm
from Gideon's side. Let's try with Hélène, a former colleague from DG Research Innovation, head of unit, the unit dealing with clean energy transition. Hi, Hélène. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes, I do hear you. Thank you very much. Do you hear me now?
I hear you perfectly.
Oh, very well.
I will also welcome Gilles Badot, Head of Division Infrastructure, New Products and Special Transaction from the European Investment Bank.
Hello.
Hi, Gilles. Gideon is the first one. So the question for Gideon is the following. What priorities does Israel have for energy transition, where Horizon 2020, the European Union Research and Innovation Framework Program, can add value to existing efforts? So how to combine what Israel is doing with what is currently going on under the Horizon 2020? Gideon.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, yes, we are participating in the Horizon 2020 program. As in a small part of it, of course, this is a huge program. In terms of priorities, I would say we have three main priorities for the transition. One is the conversion efficiency of the solar power to electricity. Because Israel is scarce in land, we need to convert the energy from the sun as efficiently and as possible. Second priority is the storage issue. Of course, in order to rely on the solar as the main source of energy, which is what we have available in Israel, we will need to rely very heavily on the storage. So this is our second priority. And the third one is the digitalization and transformation into a smart grid, because with the renewables, we have a very distributed generation system, if you will, and the management of this system can only be done in automated way, in an optimized way, which is not a central management. So these are our top priorities. And in the Horizon 2020 program, we have participated in the effort, in two of these efforts. One of them is storage, a recent storage call in Horizon 2020, and also the smart energy systems program, so the digitalization as well we've done.
Thank you, Gideon. I was just before this meeting, we had a meeting with the newly appointed Minister for Research, and he was exactly stressing how important it is for Israel now to move to sort of targets that are in line with the Paris Agreement, so to increase the capacity to have renewable. And they are looking at Europe as a model in terms not of target, because they are far from reaching this, but in terms of objectives, long-term objectives. I would now ask to Hélène, how does you think, Hélène, the EU framework program encourage civil society's engagement with energy transition? Because this is an aspect that is not always touched upon, but is extremely important. And also this kind of events reaching out a wider public are important to create, to help public in understanding what the policy decisions are. So, Hélène, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you also for the invitation. This is a question mark which is very close to my heart. It's also because energy is the blood of any human activity. So If you want to decarbonize, you have to touch energy, whether you touch it in transport or agriculture or industry. So how do we want to touch the civil society? First of all, we need to rely upon our millions of citizens and consumers and local representatives and researchers, innovators, and all the roles, because they will make the energy transition a reality. They will have to do it by themselves. It's becoming a very important element of the Research and Innovation Framework Program. You surely saw that we have introduced an innovative mission approach to support collaboration between academia, industry, and civil society. It should reflect the concerns of the citizens. So it's not only to involve the citizens, but it's to empower the citizens. Citizens are becoming not only consumers, but producers of energy, and citizens have needs, which ultimately will always need energy. So the citizens they need proper information, evidence-based, that's clear, and the COVID crisis demonstrated the value of evidence-based information, but they also need that they are listened and they are involved in the solutions. And this is what we try to do with the missions. I will quote especially the mission on adaptation to climate change, including societal transformation, and the mission on climate neutral and smart cities. So encouraging consumers to become active or to produce energy, but also enhancing the societal appropriation of energy. For instance, touching the local commercial banks' capacity to finance clean energy projects. This is also civil society. And having social sciences to better understand what is at the source of energy choices. And the last point I would like to flag really is that we are facing the need for a very large societal change towards clean energy, changing drastically a lot of things with an impact on, for instance, equipment to use energy. How many cars, how many buses, how many heaters, but also how many energy supply equipment we are going to change. This has an impact on circularity, but it has also an impact on jobs and growth, on jobs and skills. And this is something we should now develop more. Existing tools like Erasmus exchanges, Green Erasmus, Marie Skłodowska-Curie will then be adapted to foster this interdisciplinary approach and attracting people, and not only young people to begin a career, but also retraining. And I would like to flag this issue of retraining because this will offer new jobs in a situation where unemployment is growing very quickly following the crisis. I hope I was not too long. Let me just say a last word on the importance of the international component, and especially with our neighbor countries, which are very close geographically, but also very close for the cooperation. I will stop here. Thank you.
Hélène, thanks very much. You have gone through all the various important elements, ranging from the economic growth to the involvement of the civil society to the international dimension. All things that are strictly related, closely related to the Green Deal big ticket. So thank you very much for this extremely comprehensive, clear presentation. I would now go to Gilles Badeau, and I would like also to have his view and how the European Investment Bank that has turned into a green bank, financing projects that are sort of related to the climate agenda. So I would like to have his view of all these policies and process and as far as the financing instruments are concerned, and about infrastructure. We know that here in Israel there are some infrastructure that have been created also with the support of the European Investment Bank. I'm talking about the solar plant, I'm talking about desalination plant, But I would like to have Gilles Badeau's view about the role of the European Investment Bank in this.
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me. Yeah, let's say that the European Bank is a partner of Israel, providing normal financing, but it's also a partner for Israel under the Horizon 2020 initiative, and more specifically through the Innofin energy demo project instrument. I think what is going to be key for the green transition will also be the implementation and the development of disruptive technologies, low carbon energy technologies. And we know also that there are lots of startups and very interesting and promising companies in Israel that are at the edge of the technology for green technologies, for energy storage, or for batteries, or the management of batteries. And we've got this instrument called the energy demo projects that could be used, in fact, to finance them. So it's an instrument that is quite interesting because, you know, when you want to develop a new technology, you've got a gap between fundamental research and the commercial success. Most of the time it's called the valley of death. This is the moment where between public funds and private funds, you've got a difficult period to cross where you need funds in order to develop your company. And our instrument, the Energy Demo Project, is there to produce financing in order to help companies in these situations and to develop first line of commercialization, to test commercially a new product in order to see whether it can be successful in the future or not. So I think that's a powerful instrument, and that can complement the role that EIB has already in Israel through the cooperation we have providing senior debt. And it is part of the Horizon 2020 instrument, so it would be a very interesting instrument for the development of such technologies in Israel.
Gilles, thank you. I fully agree with you. There are certain investment on breakthrough innovation that are not affordable for a private venture capitalist, is where the public, through also the European Investment Bank, should chip in and support innovative endeavors and innovation. This is the case. We have many examples as far as the green techs are concerned. And it's true that Israel is more and more developing in this field. This is not one of the core activities because the policy in Israel is not as green-oriented or clean-oriented as it is in Europe. But it's true that startups, small and medium enterprises are looking at investors. And I would say that it's important that the European investors move forward, and if it's the case to invest in a high risky project, they support such a project rather than other international partners for Israel, such as US and China. So I strongly believe in this role. And having said that, I would like to have really, if you want to add something, I'm looking at Guidon.
Yeah.
Because he had a rather shorter intervention compared to the colleagues. So Guidon, if you want to add something.
Please. Yes, first of all, I'm happy to learn about this tool. I haven't heard about the energy demo from the European Investment Bank. I would very much like, as the government authority, to try to see how we can sort of be intermediaries perhaps between investment by the European Bank and companies. I know I'm not familiar with demo projects in Israel financed by the EU Investment Bank, and this is a real problem actually in the energy market, because innovation is relatively costly. Venture capital is not very happy to invest in these because the profit margins are low, the time to develop is very long. So we really need tools to allow these demo projects, and we are trying to find various tools, and we will be happy to collaborate with the European Investment Bank. And perhaps, you know, joining forces together with the Israeli government. This is also possible. Another thing I would like to say that we are, although we have started slowly, I think we are improving in our green approach, and we have just recently announced the new targets for 2030 of 30% renewable energy in Israel, in the electricity market, which we think is on one hand reasonable, on the other hand it's challenging because we have, you know, we are an island in terms of the electricity market, so it's not so easy to manage the renewables. And of course, if as time goes by and we will see that more can be done, we will do that as we've done before. Like we, for the Paris Agreement, we declared the 17% target. Now we have increased it to 30% because we feel it's better. So we want to be realistic.
Andrea, I'm about to speak for a few seconds.
Guidon, thank you. Hélène and Gilles, do you would like to add something?
Yeah, thank you. In the EU, we have tried to look indeed at the whole value chain from the basic research till the market and see where we could find the most appropriate instrument and how to harmonize or to put them consistent one to each other. You will find that in the proposal EU Next Generation, where we are really proposing a set of ways to invest. But also, this is not a fully new approach. We already began a time ago. For instance, I would quote, it's not only public money, it's not only EIB, but it's also to rely upon member states' national funding. And I would, for instance, take the example of the IPCEI, which is not EU fund, but a way for EU to accept that in some cases, the innovative part of a big demonstration is important and will bring more benefits than if we would stop it because of state aids and because privileging a certain society. And research has a strong role in that because it's the researchers and the people in the Commission who are assessing that. So I think we should look large in also the mix with private, the mix with national, the mix with regional. The Seal of Excellence is another example. I don't want again to be too long.
Gilles, you would like to add something?
I fully agree with what Gideon said. The problem is products that we offer in terms of it's a very similar, I mean, the product EDP is a mix. It can be venture debt as well as PF, depending on the project. For energy project, sometimes you can test the technology on a site and have a ring fence structure, so you can implement a PF structure. But most of the time, it's more venture debt, betting on the valuation of a company. And it is very true what Gideon said, and it's a big problem for the energy sector that these companies have poor virtual IRR if you compare software companies or, let's say, more intangible asset companies. And that's a problem of the energy sector. It's a capex intensive sector, so you don't have very appealing IRR, although progress in this sector are key if we want to build the world of tomorrow and organize the green transition. So I think that's why having some support from the public sector in this to cross this valley of death and enable to test new technologies is really key for the green transition. And now you can see that the European Union is put on the table, especially through the innovation funds and transition to be set in the future. And that, I mean, they will be funded by the emitting certificate. and this will really have a real traction for the economy to is the green transition in Europe. So maybe it's something on which Israel could also think about.
Thank you very much. I think really that green transition will be a trigger for this, the transformation of the economy and the societies in Europe and in globally. This is the reason why we decided to have this conference together with other topics. To have this international outreach because Europe has the ambition to lead on many themes, but it's important that the key partners such as Israel and other partners are following along the same line, and in certain cases we can be complementary, I would say, as is the case for startups or breakthrough innovation, together with a strongly based industry and the capacity to finance the innovation. So I want to thank you very much for having participated to this panel. I have to pass the floor to the Master of Ceremony now. Thank you very much. Bye.